All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. With Fred McGriff and Scott Rowland fresh off of taking their rightful spots in Cooperstown at the Baseball Hall of Fame this past Sunday, what former players, executives, and managers should get the waiver round for 2024? And these are I'm just going to name, a couple of guys who I feel deserve recognition, and I'll get into the explanation as well. I want to start off with Adrian Beltre, and you're talking about a guy who throughout his MLB career had a 286 career batting average, 477 career home runs, 3,166 hits, and 5 gold gloves at first base. And next year, or this coming year rather, is going to be Beltre's first time on the ballot. Carlos Beltran. And for Carlos Beltran, he was on the ballot last year for the first time. He got about 46.5% of the vote, but you're talking about a guy who was a 279 career hitter, the 1999 American League Rookie of the Year, 435 career home runs, 2,725 hits, and he also was selected to the All Star team 9 times. Jeff Kent, and the thing with Jeff Kent is this: last year was his 10th time on the ballot. He only got 46.5% of the votes, which was the same as Beltran. But I feel like, Kent at times has been a guy who's gotten lost in the wash. You're talking about a guy who was a 2000 National League MVP, a 290 career hitter, 377 home runs, more than 2,400 hits, 560 doubles, and he was a 5 time All Star. And you think about it, late 90s, mid 2000s, Jeff Kent was one of the better players in baseball, regardless of the position. But of course, last year being the 10th time on the ballot, he didn't get in. It's going to take the veteran committee to get him in going forward. Same thing can be said for Carlos Delgado. This is a guy who I feel, in my opinion, has been overlooked, in recent years. 473 career home runs. He was a 283 hitter. I mean, this guy went out there and raked for so many years, most notably with the Toronto Blue Jays. And I mean, Delgado is a guy, I think he got kind of lost in the wash a little bit. Some people want to talk about the steroid era, this, that, and third, but Carlos Delgado, in my opinion, could simply just go out there and rake. Billy Wagner, this guy, he had more than 68% of the votes last year. You're talking about a guy who has 422 career saves, 2.31 career earned run average, and he was also a 7 time All Star. And being that Wagner was so close last year, maybe he just gets that additional push to get over the hump, if you will, to be a Hall of Famer this year. Todd Helton. This was another guy who was on the ballot last year for the 5th year. He just missed out. He had more than 72% of the votes to get in for this year. Of course, you need 75. And Helton was a 316 career hitter, 369 home runs, more than 2,500 hits, nearly 600 doubles, and he was a 5 time All Star. And obviously, the writers are not holding it against him that he spent his entire career in Denver playing for the Colorado Rockies. Remember, we saw Larry Walker get in a couple of years ago, but the only difference between Walker and Helton is the fact that Walker did play for other teams before coming to the Rockies. He got his start with the pardon me, almost the Toronto Blue Jays, the Montreal Expos, as well as, after Colorado, he did spend some time with the St. Louis Cardinals as well. But nonetheless, I think Todd Helton will more than likely get the nod this year. Managerial wise, Lou Piniella. This is a guy with 1,835 career wins, which are 17th all time. He led the Cincinnati Reds to the World Series championship in 1990. He also took both the Seattle Mariners and Chicago Cubs to the postseason, and he posted, a couple of winning seasons when he was the manager of the New York Yankees back in the 1980s. So, of these guys right here that I just mentioned, I think Adrian Beltre is a lock. I mean, the thing is, you're talking about a guy. once you get to the 3,000 hit mark, it's kind of that holy grail, if you will, for baseball. There are several things that just get you enshrinement into Cooperstown: 3,000 career hits, 3,000 strikeouts, 300 career wins for a starter, also 500 home runs for the most part. And of course, Adrian Beltre definitely, got the 3,000 hits, came up just short of 500 career home runs and was close to being a 300 hitter for his career. Carlos Beltran, is he going to get enough of a bump up from last year? That's going to be a very interesting thing to see. Jeff Kent at this point is going to take the Veterans Committee. Same thing with Carlos Delgado. Billy Wagner, after being so close last year, I think he gets in. And the same thing can be said for Todd Helton. Now, some other guys that were in the mix on the ballot for 2023. Andrew Jones had nearly 60% of the votes. And of course, you think about the beginning of Andrew Jones's career with the Atlanta Braves. I mean, this guy was a lock to be a Hall of Famer because he just did everything so effortlessly out there. Gary Sheffield got 55% of the vote last year. This coming year is going to be his last time on the ballot. Is Chef going to get enough to get 75%? We're going to have to wait and see. And then, there are some other veterans that, people, tend to overlook. For me, I keep saying this. Will the veteran committee ever put in Keith Hernandez and Dave Parker? When you think about Keith Hernandez, 11 gold gloves at first base, one of the best defensive first basemen ever. Keith Hernandez was one of the best guys as far as, reading a bunt, making that throw to home, making that throw to third, making that throw to second, to break up, a bunt situation. And as well as, having a solid bat, at the plate. And let's not forget, Keith Hernandez was the National League MVP in 1979. And the guy who was a co MVP with him in 1979, Dave Parker, put up some great years with the Pittsburgh Pirates, helped them win the World Series in 1979, had some good years with the Reds as well as the Oakland A's. But of course, both guys are linked to those Pittsburgh drug trials. And that's something, in my opinion, that is still hindering their case. Then, of course, it's the steroid era guys. You got Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. And some people are going to agree with what I'm about to say. Some people are going to look at me sideways. It's all good. But Barry Bonds was a four-time MVP before all of the steroid stuff came out. Never failed the drug test. You could say whatever you want, but the thing is, that guy, in my opinion, some people are going to disagree. That's all good. I do believe he belongs in Cooperstown, and the same thing could be said for Roger Clemens, another guy that hasn't gotten in is, and he's controversial, is Kurt Schilling. But it's just like Kurt Schilling did all of his, like, if this is all about what a guy did on the field, then Kurt Schilling, deserves to be there. Some people are going to call him controversial. I understand that. But if it's about what a guy does on the field, Kurt Schilling, in my opinion, does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. So for me, getting back to it, I definitely feel Adrian Beltre is a lock. I would be extremely surprised if he doesn't get in. Being that Todd Helton was so close last year, I think he gets that, little bit to get over the hump this year. And the same thing could be said for Billy Wagner. Will the veteran committee take a look at somebody? We got to wait and see. Will a guy like Carlos Beltran take that big jump up? I mean, that's a huge jump to get. Will Sheffield get in on his last time on the ballot? There's a lot of things that we got to wait and see. But one thing's for sure, I think we are in store, for some more big names to be enshrined in Cooperstown next year. Some deserving names as well. And at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. The Hall of Fame, regardless of the sport, is about putting your best players from that sport in the Hall. Scott Rowland and Fred McGriff definitely deserve to be in there. You think about the Crime Dog, one of the best first basemen during his era. And, you think about Scott Rowland, he was steady Eddie at the hot corner. And now let's see who's going to be a part of the next class for 2024 and the Baseball Hall of Fame. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.